Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital spoilers. General Hospital teased that during the November 5th occasion, Anna Devane was abducted from her auto and latterly seen restrained in a Essence president in a sterile room each by herself. Halloween is over, so what's over with this dirty trick? Let's take a look at what could be in store for the double agent. Anna has been detained. Anna tried to scream came over the voice expiring from a loudspeaker and some suckers allowed. It sounded like Caesar Faison. Someone is surely playing with Anna's mind, wanting her to suppose that Faison is alive, or at the veritably least, rattle her brain. Faison is apparently dead, but just like his two recently returned from the dead kitties, might he also be alive? Anna fears Faison. No matter who spoke the words from the speaker in Anna's insulation room, they were spooky. The portentous narrator appertained to Anna's new life, one in which she has zero say. Who would Aunt be freaked out over that idea? Anna sounded weirded out for sure, and whoever took her does Aunt feel to have her stylish interests in mind? Who took Anna? Maybe we should look to Nathan West as an illustration of what a new life could mean for Anna. Nathan was apparently dead before he lately reappeared in Port Charles. Nathan has no indication of what took place for the last 7 times in which he has MIA. But hopeful Nathan has spoken of embracing his new life, and perhaps we're to read commodity into that statement? Anna may be subordinated to the same treatment as Nathan, perhaps a test subject for a parlous trial? Will Anna be a test animal in a lab? Anna's granddaughter, Emma Scorpio Drake, is driven to expose lawless lab testing in PC, and now her own grandma may fall victim to unrighteous trial. Has Anna now come part of Faison's final design that several characters have mentioned? Do you suppose that Anna is reproduced, or that her dead family Alex shows up to take her place? The heart of Port Charles is not its bustling hospital, its opulent mansions, or its sleek corporate towers. It is a nexus of secrets, a living entity that thrives on revelation and deception. It was into this treacherous ecosystem that a figure, long thought lost to the shadows, miraculously returned. Anna Devane, the legendary former WSB agent and commissioner, walked back into the light, and the city itself seemed to shudder with the implications. Her reappearance was as dramatic as her disappearance had been mysterious. Found in a safe house in Estonia, disoriented but alive, she was debriefed and repatriated, a hero welcomed home. To those who loved her, it was nothing short of a miracle. Valentine Cassadine, the man whose life had become inextricably woven with hers, felt a seismic shift in his world. The void she had left was suddenly, gloriously filled. His encouraging words to her were a balm, soft and full of a hope he had long since abandoned. "You're home, my love," he whispered, holding her as if she might evaporate into mist. "That's all that matters. Everything else, the memories, the time we lost, it will all come back. We have the rest of our lives." But the Anna who returned was different. The fire in her eyes, the sharp, perceptive gleam that could dissect a lie at 50 paces, seemed dimmed. She was quieter, more fragile, her memories a patchwork quilt with gaping holes. She attributed it to trauma, to the ordeal she had endured. She spoke of confinement, of confusion, of a fog that refused to lift. It was a plausible story, one that elicited sympathy and patience. The baptism of this new Anna into the familiar currents of Port Charles life had begun, a slow and careful reintegration. Yet, from the very beginning, there were dissonant chords in her symphony of return, notes so faint only the most attuned ears could catch them. One such ear belonged to Jason Morgan. Jason's world was built on a foundation of instinct and pattern recognition. As a strategic operative for the Corinthos organization, his survival, and the survival of those he protected, depended on his ability to detect the slightest anomaly, the most minuscule flaw in a narrative. And he detected one in Anna Devane. It happened during a welcome home gathering at the Metro Court. Valentine was hovering, his devotion a palpable force. Lucy Coe was effusive, Robert Scorpio was cautiously optimistic. And Anna was playing the part of the grateful, weary survivor perfectly. Almost too perfectly. Jason, a silent observer from a corner booth, watched her interact with sunny Corinthos. It's good to have you back, Anna, Sonny said, clinking his glass against hers. The city's been a lot less interesting without you. Anna offered a warm, if slightly weary, smile. It's good to be back, Sonny. Though I must admit, I'm looking forward to some quiet. No more international intrigue for me. It was a throwaway line, the kind anyone would say. But it nagged at Jason. He later mentioned it to Sonny. Since when does Anna Devane shy away from intrigue? It's her oxygen. Sonny shrugged it off. People change, Jason. She's been through hell. But Jason's mind, a fortress of cold, hard logic, would not release the thread. The real Anna Devane was a predator who pretended to be a house cat. This woman was a house cat pretending to have the ghost of a predator's instincts. The cadence of her speech was off, a fraction too slow, as if she were carefully choosing idioms. Her knowledge of recent, non-classified Port Charles events was just a little too vague, gleaned from headlines rather than lived experience. He began his own, quiet investigation. He accessed security footage from the weeks leading up to her disappearance, comparing the micro-gestures, the posture, the way she held a coffee cup. The woman who had returned was a masterful replica, but to Jason's analytical eye, she was a replica nonetheless. The set of her shoulders was different. The real Anna carried a latent tension, a readiness for a fight that was as natural as breathing. This woman's relaxation was studied. His suspicions solidified into a cold, hard certainty during a conversation at the Port Charles Grill. He bumped into her, a staged coincidence to apply pressure. It must be strange, Jason began, his tone neutral, coming back to a world that kept turning without you. It's disorienting, the woman replied, her eyes flickering away for a microsecond. So much is the same, yet so much has changed. Valentine has been my rock. Valentine's been through a lot himself, Jason said, watching her closely. Especially after what happened with the Chimera affair in Cyprus. He paused, letting the name hang in the air. It was a complete fabrication. There was no Chimera affair. The woman's face showed a flicker of confusion, then smoothed into a mask of polite regret. Yes, that was a difficult time for him. He doesn't like to speak of it. In that moment, Jason had his confirmation. The real Anna Devane would have immediately called him on the bluff, her eyes sharp with curiosity or annoyance at the mention of an operation she knew nothing about. This woman had tried to assimilate the lie into her constructed backstory. She was an imposter. Act I, the unmasking. Jason's discovery was a solitary burden. To reveal it without irrefutable proof would be to risk the imposter going deeper underground, or worse, harming someone to protect her cover. He needed to understand the scope of the deception. Who was she? Who sent her? And what was the ultimate goal? He began a shadow war, using all the resources at his disposal. He had his associates trace the official channels of her return, looking for cracks in the paperwork. He analyzed the timing of her reappearance, cross-referencing it with the movements of known intelligence players and Cassadine affiliates. The pattern that emerged was chilling. Her return coincided with a sudden, heightened interest from several shell corporations in Valentine's holdings, particularly a new, revolutionary data mining software his company was about to launch. The encouraging words the imposter received from Valentine and others were not just comfort, they were intelligence. Every time Valentine reassured her that we don't have to talk about your work, he was steering her away from a potential pitfall. Every time Lucy prattled on about old times, she was providing the imposter with the cultural touchstones she needed to solidify her cover. The imposter, for her part, was playing a dangerous and meticulous game. Her mission was twofold: to gain access to Valentine's vault and the data mining software, and to discredit or eliminate anyone who could potentially expose her before the transaction was complete. She reported to a handler through encrypted channels, a faceless voice that pushed for results. The Morgan asset is a concern, she whispered into a burner phone from a secure location. He observes too much. He's a blunt instrument, a mob enforcer, the handler dismissed. Stay on script. Your priority is Cassadine's trust and the vault schematics. The baptism is almost complete. Do not falter now. But Jason was no blunt instrument. He was a scalpel. He knew he had to force her hand, to make her reveal herself in a way that others would be forced to see. He began a campaign of psychological pressure. He would be present in rooms where she was, his silent, imposing presence a constant question. He would ask seemingly innocent questions that had hidden barbs, references to obscure WSB protocols or old, forgotten cases that only the real Anna would know. The tension built, a slow-boiling pot about to overflow. The imposter grew nervous, her mask beginning to slip under the strain. She made a mistake. Trying to solidify her cover and gain sympathy, she confided in Robert Scorpio about a fictional trauma from her captivity, a story involving a specific type of binding and interrogation technique. Robert, a veteran of 1,000 field operations, felt a prickle of unease. The story was just a little too textbook, a little too generic. It lacked the specific, gritty details that real trauma imprints on the memory. He mentioned his doubt to Jason. The story she told, it's from a declassified WSB training manual on resistance to interrogation. A famous case study from the 80s, Robert said, his face grim. You're right, Jason. Something's not right. They now had a second witness to the deception. But they needed proof positive. Act 2, The Trap. Jason devised a trap. He knew the imposter's objective was Valentine's data software. With Valentine's reluctant, terrified cooperation, the man was heartbroken but pragmatic when faced with the evidence. They laid a snare. They would feed the imposter false information about a fail-safe for the vault, a retinal scan that only Anna Devane, as Valentine's designated emergency contact, could bypass. It was a complete fabrication, but it played directly into her mission parameters. The stage was set for a charity gala at the Metro Court. It was the kind of event the real Anna would have loved, a perfect backdrop for a high-stakes heist. Valentine, playing his part with an Oscar-worthy performance, accidentally let the details of the fail-safe slip during a tender moment. I've made you my key, my love, he told her, his voice thick with manufactured emotion. If anything ever happens to me, you are the only one who can access my life's work. The scanner is keyed to your retinal pattern. It's my ultimate act of trust. The imposter's eyes glittered with a hunger she could barely conceal. This was it. The culmination of her mission. Later that night, as the gala was in full swing, she slipped away. Using the access codes and the false information she had been given, she made her way to the secure sublevel of Cassadine Industries. Jason, Robert, and a team of WSB agents, quietly assembled by Robert, watched her every move on a bank of monitors. They watched as she approached the vault. They watched as she placed her eye against a fake scanner they had installed. They listened as she spoke into her comms to her handler. The baptism is complete, she said, her voice crisp and professional, all traces of the fragile Anna gone. I have access. Preparing to download the data packet now. The words were a confession. The angry threats began the moment they moved in. Robert and Jason stepped out of the shadows, blocking her exit. It's over, Robert said, his voice like granite. Who are you? The woman's face contorted from shock into a snarl of pure fury. The mask of Anna Devane shattered, revealing the ruthless operative beneath. You have no idea what you've interrupted, she spat, her accent shifting, becoming harder, Eastern European. You're a dead man, Scorpio. And you, Morgan, you've just signed a death warrant for everyone you care about. She was fast, pulling a weapon from a hidden compartment in her dress. A frantic, violent struggle ensued. Jason disarmed her with brutal efficiency, but not before she activated a distress beacon. The angry threats were not empty, they were a promise of a coming storm. Act 3, The Aftermath and the Looming Shadow. In the stark interrogation room of the WSB safe house, the imposter, whose real name was revealed to be Anya Petrova, a former FSB agent turned high-end mercenary, was less than cooperative. You can lock me away, she sneered at Jason and Robert. It changes nothing. My employer does not tolerate failure, but he tolerates exposure even less. I was the quiet option. Now, he will have no choice but to be loud. The baptism was a failure. The carefully constructed doppelganger had been exposed. But as Anya's words hung in the air, a new and more terrifying reality dawned on everyone in the room. The encouraging words and the patient deception had been Plan A. Now, Plan B was in motion. The investigation revealed the extent of the plot. Anya had been chosen for her remarkable physical resemblance and her psychological profiling skills. She had been trained for months, immersed in videos, diaries, and every scrap of data available on the real Anna Devane. Her mission was to become Anna, to gain Valentine's absolute trust, and to steal his software, which had powerful applications in global espionage. But the most chilling revelation was yet to come. A forensics team, scouring Anya's possessions, found a single, encrypted file. When Robert's text finally broke the cipher, it contained just one thing, a recent, time-stamped photograph of the real Anna Devane. She was pale and thin, sitting in a sterile, white room, but she was unmistakably alive. And her eyes, filled with a defiant fire, were staring directly at the camera. The deception had not been a replacement. It had been a diversion, a way to keep Port Charles looking one way while the real game was played elsewhere. Anya's presence had ensured that no one was searching for the real Anna, because everyone believed she was already home. The angry threats from the imposter now took on a new, more horrifying meaning. The real Anna was still a prisoner. And the fact that her captors had felt secure enough to send a photograph meant they were confident, powerful, and that their plans were entering a new, more aggressive phase. Valentine was destroyed, his hope turned to ash and his guilt immense. Robert was a man possessed, the full force of the WSB now redirected to finding his sister. Jason Morgan stood as a silent sentinel amidst the chaos, his initial suspicion having unraveled a conspiracy far wider and more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. He had exposed the ghost in their midst, but in doing so, he had awakened a sleeping dragon. The fake Anna was in custody, but the real one was still in chains, and the people who held her had just been pushed into a corner. The baptism of fire was over, but the war for Anna Devane's soul was just beginning. The streets of Port Charles, once a place of welcome, were now a hunting ground, and the most dangerous prey of all was the one they had yet to find.